All right, so one thing I need to fix a little bit is if you log out and try to go to your profile down here, where is, oh, how do I get to the profile? So I am logged out and let me try, oh, I can't click on these. Let's see if I go to podcasters. Okay, so this works even though I am not logged in, but if I remove the URL at the end, so it's just profile, then it says that user was not found. So I think that the best here is to send the user to the login page. So let's do that instead. So if the user is not logged in, so we're gonna go to profile here, profile.php. Oh, wait, this is log out. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if the user is not logged in here, and so if empty slug, so if there's no slug and the user is logged in, we grab that. But if the user is not logged in, we redirect them. So we're going to do another if statement here. And this one will redirect the user to the login page. So this is for when the slug is empty and you're not logged in, like that. Okay, so let's save that. And now if I try this, I go to the login page instead. So let's go back to the home page and let's go to, let's say, podcasters. Click on that to know that we haven't disturbed that. But if I click my own profile link, then it tells me to log in. Okay, that's all right. Now what we want is a single, let's see, profile there and podcasts. So what I want is when I click on one of these to be taken to a single podcast view. And also let me put these on the home page. Excuse me there. So let me close all these files for a clean slate. So I'm going to go to the home page, and on the home page I want to remove all the podcasts here. So here we have podcasters. Popular podcasts is here. So what I would do is I'm just removing these break tags here that I don't need. And this one here is a single podcast. So let me see where it went overboard here. I'm going to remove that break tag again. I have a thing with break tags, I guess. So this part of the audio moved things down. So let me do that. Okay, so this is one podcast. So we're just going to ask the if statement. If not empty, here these are just rows. That's what we will call these guys. Duplicate, and let's do a for each if they are available. So for each rows as row. All right, and let's come down here. And for each, duplicate, and then we have end if out here. And let's move this over. Boom. And that as well. Boom. Okay, so looking good. Now these remaining podcasts we remove because we don't need them. We're gonna use the loop instead. So move that like so. And this is the pagination. So let me just move this over like so. Okay, Great. And then over here we need, this is for the image, we need to use the get image function as always. And in here I'm gonna put row image like that. Okay, so here we have our title. So I'm gonna do that and say row title. I need to escape it, so escape like that. And what else? Source audio here. I'm gonna grab that, so we'll just move the whole thing, put that in here. No need to escape it. This one will be file, and we will need the root path over here, and then a slash like so. Now the reason we don't need a root path on the source of this image is because this function does it for us. So we could also create another function called get audio instead of get image. That way we can be using it here. So you can just make a copy of that function and change the name to get audio and change the appropriate code as well. So with the name here, this one should be user ID and not just ID there. And let's look at the date here. We also have a function called getDate, I think, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get an error if it doesn't exist, then we can create it. I'll put my date there. This one tells us the time of the length of the audio. Now we can't figure that out using PHP. We could actually, but it's very buggy. But we could figure it out using the audio here, the timer. Because if you grab this audio element and you say element dot duration, then you get the duration. But the duration is in seconds, so you have to convert it to this format here. And this format is not so difficult to convert to. It's just a modulus of 60 because every 60 seconds make a minute, every 60 minutes make an hour. So you just keep dividing by 60. If you get the remainder, if you don't get a remainder, put 00, remainder, just like that, and you keep going until you have your time. But since these players do show the timing of the song, I don't think we need that. So I'm going to leave that out for now. Speaking of which, this is not what I did on the profile page, if I'm not mistaken. Where is that profile? I'm looking for where I added the audio. Yeah, here I used ID, but it must be user ID, like so. Okay, so back to our home page. Now here, that's why we have by 3, by 4. It should be the same user ID. And there it is, it's by 1. Great. So we will be getting the user. Actually, let's do that right now. This is on the profile page, right? I want that username instead. So we don't have a column named username like that. And this actually here can benefit from that. Let's put that get date over there like so, and let's remove that remaining data like so. So we don't have username in the columns, so that way when we refresh we'll get an error, a warning. It's not a fatal error or anything like that. So what we would do instead is let's create that column username. We can do that. Where is this? Where we load the podcasts and where we get the rows. So here we get the rows from here using our where function. But this function is not enough to deal with what we want. So instead we're going to use the query function, so we can actually just type a query. So here I'll put a query and then comma, and we will use these as placeholders in there. the user ID. So let me put brackets now that there will be more than one line in here, because we need one line for the query. So let's do query is equal to, like that. So we want to select from a specific table, which is podcasts. So I'll say select all, which is all columns, from podcasts. Okay. Where the user ID is equal to full colon user ID that we are supplying in there. And then we can do a limit here. We can say limit limit 10, maybe, like so. Okay, so user ID is equal to user ID limit 10. But this doesn't give us extra columns because the username column does not exist in the podcasts thing here. Let me do an illustration here while I do this. So what we want to do is this. Look at the users table. This is the users table, right? It's got username here, which is what I need. I need the username and the user's slug so that I can target that user. In case somebody clicks on that name, they can go to the user's profile. So we need the slug column and we need the username column. So we need to combine two tables, the users table, which has that information, and the podcasts table. So the resulting thing that I want is to have all the columns from the podcast and just two columns from the users table all read at once. Now we need to know what the connecting columns are. In this case, the user ID will tell us which columns should match the user ID here in the podcast. So that is our connector. So we're going to join two tables. So here what we do is select all from podcasts, and then we just say join. Right after you mention the table, you want to join another table, join users. Now, since you're joining users, you should tell it which columns you're joining it on. So I'm going to say on. Now, here, you need to tell it, since we're joining two tables, you need to be very specific which tables you mean. For example, when I say where user ID is equal to user ID, it should know which tables I am talking about here, because now we don't only have one table, but two. So join users on. So users.id should match podcasts.user.id, like that. So this is what you're joining on. Now, which columns do you want to get? Well, I want to get where the user ID, right? But which user ID? Now, user ID is in podcasts. So where podcast.userid is equal to user ID. Okay, limit 10. Great. But what about the columns here? Here, I'm just saying select all columns, but from which table? So here I have to tell it that from podcasts, excuse me, I want all columns. So I'm going to do podcast.star and then comma users dot username and then users again dot what's the other one, slug, like that. Okay, now if your query becomes too long because of repeating podcasts, users dot, you can put aliases on these guys. So for example, when you say from podcasts, you can say podcasts as P. Now you can reference it just with the letter P. Join users as U on users, right? So now we can reference anything that says users dot, we can just say U dot. So U dot, and then podcasts dot will change to P dot. So it may become confusing a little bit, but That's how it is. So we are replacing podcasts with P as an alias, users with U, and so on. So once I run this, it should run as expected. Let's see. I don't think there's an error there, but who knows. So let me now refresh, and you see problem solved. Look at that. Now it knows which user has which podcast. Now I need it clickable here so that we can link to a particular user. So what I'll do is right here where we put the username, I will link this. So I'm going to put an A tag instead. Let's do that. href, like so. Close that. Let's come over here. So the href here will have, of course, root and some. Let's see here, root and profile. Then we put a slug on the other side. So I'm gonna do that, and this is gonna be row slug, of course. There we go. Very good. So let's see if that works. So refresh. Now there's a link. So if I click on that, it takes me to the user's profile that created this podcast. Here should take me to the actual podcast view page. So on the podcast view page, I just want these, but with a bigger image. That's all, really. So let's create that page real quick. So on this one, I will grab the whole thing here up to this end if. So I'm going to copy that, save. Let me create a controller. Actually, let me make a view page because I'll lose that copied information. So views, news, paste, save. I'm going to call this one podcast.view.php. So this was a single podcast, right? And then if I go to the home view page, I can grab my header and footer for the podcast view page. If I select all of these and move them a little bit behind, enter that, do that, paste there. Okay, so go down here, and then footer here. There we go. Okay, so instead of recent here, we don't need a for loop because this is going to be a single item. So let's remove that loop. Here, we just look for row. That's it. If not empty row, we do that. And then instead of no recent podcasts found, we just say that podcast was not found. Alrighty then. It's as good as that. Okay, I think this does it. But with the image here, I need to just change how it looks. But let's see what we get. So we need a controller. This is just a view. We need a controller. So let me go home, select all of these guys, new file, paste, save. I'm gonna save this one as podcast, single podcast dot PHP. Save. Okay, so let's change those references. Let me make sure it's case sensitive. Podcast, and this one, podcast. You see, this is why namespaces are very important, because we have a class named podcast, but it's in the controller's namespace. Otherwise, we'd have a problem because we have another podcast, class podcast in models right here. Because you should remember that when you're loading a page, everything is loaded in as a single page and then processed. So if we had this class podcast and code it, it would have a problem with this other class podcast over here. But this one is in a different namespace, so that's why they can survive together. So we don't actually need the user. Maybe we actually don't need this user instantiation. What we need to instantiate is the podcast. So let me go to profile here. Excuse me, because I'll need this and the query. grab that. Let's come back to podcast. We don't need these podcasters. Paste this instead. We'll edit it. Back to profile. I want to instantiate this guy over here. So copy that and let's instantiate. I'll leave the user model because who knows, we may need it later. So instead of recent, it's going to be raw. So podcast, let's run a query. So select P, this is fine, but from podcast, great. Where join users, that's fine. And now instead of grabbing the user ID where on the where clause here, where P user ID is equal to that, instead we're looking for where podcast.slug, because we will have a slug is equal to slug. So here that's what we need. We need a slug. We don't have this data raw, so we're just going to have the slug variable over here. And that slug will come from there. Let's put is equal to null, just in case it's not available. All right, so this will be grabbed from the URL as a slug and brought in here. So let's see how that runs. So I'm gonna click on that and that podcast was not found. So let's figure out why. Oh, as you can see, the slug is wrong. So why is that? Why is it that the right. Okay, so we have a little problem here. Okay, so back to the profile.php original. So the problem we're having is that, you see, we have two slug columns. There's a slug from the users column and a slug from the podcast, but we're not mentioning. You see here we're saying select all from the podcast column, and that includes a slug, same as from the user. So, oh, I have something on my throat, I think. So what's happening is that this user slug is overriding the other column. So we need to give this one a unique name. So what we're gonna do is, this one will be, let's call this one P slug or something, or product slug. So we can put an alias here as well. We can just say as product underscore slug, like that. So the slug from there will be renamed as this column there. Now this is going to give us a little problem right here, because now we will have slug, but it will still be wrong. So oh, wait a second, this is for the user, right? So I'm gonna call this one user slug, like that. Sorry about that. uslug is user slug. So now it means if we go back here, even on the user, there's a slug for the podcast instead. So let's change that. So back to profile view. Let me move up here, and where we have the user name right there, this one should have user underscore slug. Okay, so refresh and that does it. So user and product, look at that. Now let's fix this here, this monstrosity. So it's saying, what is it saying here at all? Okay, I don't know. Let's go back to, where is this podcast? So things are going in there, same thing here, uslug as user slug. That way we have a different name for that. Okay, so it's complaining about something. Now, if you can't read the error very well, all you have to do is go to right click and say view page source. All right, then go down to wherever there is an error and read it. So there we go. Here it says template, attempt to read property slug on array. Okay, but why is it an array then? Okay, I understand now. You see, the query function returns an array of objects. It doesn't return a single object, but an array of objects. So we have to fix that by checking if it was indeed successful, and then we say data row is equal to data row 0. So we just grab the first item from there, from the result, which is the first object. That way we turn it into an actual object. Then if I refresh, this is what I get. Okay, I think this is good enough. If you want to redesign this, of course you can. Down here, I need to put a description. So let's go to podcast here. If I go to this div over here, it's got the audio, and then down here, I can put another div and then echo out the description. Let's see here, paste, and let's say description. I just want to add a few styles here and just add some padding of 10 pixels, something like this. And let's do that. So some kind of description down here. We don't need these links anymore because we are on the page itself. So we can remove. I can change these into divs. So I'll just put that as a div for the image and div there. Same goes for the title. I can change that to a div instead of an a tag, div, like so. But the user is fine. We can leave that link over there. Okay, great. And here the time is shown for the song, which means it did load quite fine. Now here when I click, I go to the user's profile, but it doesn't take me there because I'm using the wrong slug. This one should be user_slug. So back here again, refresh, and now we can go to the user's profile quite well. And we can play the song. Let's see here. I can barely hear it. I can't hear it at all. I think my, there we go. Oops. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Things are working out there. Yeah. All right, this is awesome. So now we can play actual songs. You can move the title to somewhere here, and also maybe you may want to capitalize the title. You can do that by putting another function in here, saying UC first, like that, to capitalize the first letter, like so. I'm gonna grab this and put it on the other podcasts, just the title there, and even on the home page where we have a single podcast. Where is that? We can put our title there. Boom. Also, on this one, I would like to edit this part there. Copy. Come back to the home page. This part here, officially edited. And what else? Okay, I think that does it. So back here, and that first letter is capitalized. All right, so podcasters, recent podcasts, and there we go. Look at that. Very cool. Right back there. So let's do the same for the home page here. We don't have any podcasts here. Now for the home page, I don't think we need the popular podcasts. I think we don't need this really on the home page. This part here. Instead, let me go to the podcast, this one here, no recent podcasts found. I just want to add this, the else statement there on the home page as well. I'm gonna put it here. Oops, why did I just paste like that? Okay, so else, no recent podcasts found. So back to the home page. So no recent podcasts found. All right, that's great. View all should take us to all recent podcasts. and popular podcast view all should take us there. So this is just a matter of adding links to these, and that's that. There's popular here, right? It's /popular, so easy peasy to add. Just where is that view? Oh, it's right here. I can change this to an A tag, easy peasy, and then here I put an href and then root to that same one /popular, like that, and it's that simple. So if I refresh, there it is. So if I click now, it takes me to a page we haven't created yet, but we will very soon. Okay, so let's put some podcasts here. That will go to the home controller. So home controller, and in here there's a podcasters, right? But we need podcasts as well, which we're gonna do just like we did in profile here. So I'm gonna grab this again, come to the home page, paste it back again. I will grab the podcast controller, the what do you call this, the model, and do this. So I'll use the query function again. Here we just don't need a where clause really. We just need where. Yeah, we don't need a where clause here. We just want to limit 10 like so. So we're grabbing all the recent ones, but then we're gonna do order by ID descending. I think that's important. I keep forgetting that. So same thing on the profile as well. We have to order by the one that was created last. So limit, before the limit, we can do order by ID descending so that we show the last one first at the top. Same thing here. Where else do we need that? No, just that. So homepage, order by ID descending. There we go. Let's refresh. Okay, so undefined array key row on line 23. Okay. I didn't do things very well here. Data row is not a thing. We don't even need this because we are not putting any variables in the query. So we just run, and then instead of recent, it should be rows. That should do it, really. Refresh, and there we go. So we see we have our podcasts here. Very, very cool. Now these should be ordered by popularity, actually. Okay. Now if I go back to popular podcasters, here I think we can order by the number of podcasts. Maybe that doesn't work actually. Popularity of a podcaster would be hard to determine, so we just leave that there. Maybe one with the most views, who knows? We can do that instead. So let's go to podcasts. We have a popularity value there, so we use that instead. Instead of ID, we order by popularity descending. So we will be editing that popularity, and we're going to start right now. So if we go to podcast.php, this is where we view a specific podcast. So I'm going to put these here. So if we have viewed this podcast, we should increase its view counter. So I'm going to update this podcast. So I'm going to do podcast update. Okay. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just run a query here to update. Sorry. So the query will read something like update podcasts set views is equal to views plus 1. It's a good thing we can do this. Excuse me, where ID is equal to ID and limit 1. Okay, cool. Now we have to provide what ID is. So we're going to say ID, and what is ID as an array. This is going to come from data row ID, because this is a row we want to update, and we'll say ID like so. So update podcasts, set views is equal to views plus 1 where blah blah blah. So the view counter is increasing. Now if you don't want the views to increase when the owner of the podcast is viewing it, you can simply put an if statement to see if the current logged in user, you can do this. Say now you need to load the session here, so it's going to be session is equal to new, as usual, core session. So once you grab that, you can check who is logged in. So you say, in fact, you can even check is logged in, but in fact session will still bring you an empty value if it doesn't, if the user is not logged in. So you can say if session ID, user ID is equal to the data row user ID, because there's a user ID of the owner of this podcast. If these are correct, then we run this, but we do, if they are not, then we can update like that. So this will make sure the view counter only increases when not the owner views the podcast. Okay, but for now I just want more views, so even from the owner, so I'm gonna mute that for a second and let it increase the view counter. So podcast. So now if I click on one of these podcasts, wait, why can I not click on these? This is not good. Let's go to the home page here. Back to profile. Let me see what I have. I think here I have this, so I'm gonna grab that. So home view, where is our podcast? The image is here, so I'm gonna change this part, boom, to an A tag, and also grab this and put it around the title. So I think maybe the whole thing will do. Grab that, paste, and then change that to an A tag. Okay, that way we can actually click on these guys. So popularity is different, so let's click on that. It works. Great. Click on that, it works. Okay, so every time I'm clicking on that, it should increase the view count. So let's make sure that's happening. So as you can see, this has 2 views, but what about the popularity here? Popularity is how many views per day. So we have to tell how many days this thing has been since it was uploaded, and then look at the views and divide by that number of days. So here we have to turn this into number of days. So we can do that by just counting how many seconds have passed since it was published. So let me go back to the podcast, because here I want us to update the thing as well. So we say update popularity. So first of all, we're gonna say days is equal to, so we want that issue from the user row. From the row here, we want to get the date, right, and convert it to number of seconds. So how do you do that? You do string to time like that and convert that date into number of seconds. And once I do that, I will divide this. What am I dividing? By how many seconds are in one day. So in one day, how many seconds do we have? We have 60 seconds make a minute, and 60 minutes make an hour. And then if we multiply that by 24, we have number of seconds in a day. So 60 by 60 times 24. That's 60 seconds make a minute, 60 minutes make an hour, and then 20 times 24 hours. That's how many seconds in a day, and we divide that by this. That way we get the number of days. And how do we do this? We do a floor. Do we do floor or ceiling? I want to round this off, but maybe I'll leave it as it is. So number of days we know since the thing was published. Now we look at views and then divide by number of days. So popularity is equal to the view count divided by days. So I'm going to grab this and put it there and change it to views and divide that by number of days. Okay. So this will be an integer, and that's the popularity. So here, I want to see what the answer is. So I'm just going to echo our popularity here as we load the podcast. So I'm going to click on this one. The popularity is this number, which is very weird. So that's not what I wanted. Let's try again. So how many days, first of all, is the question. Did we get, right? Here we should get less than 1 day, right? So this is too many, way too many days. So something is wrong. What number is this? Let's find out, shall we? I think that's probably how many hours I need, how many seconds I need a day, right? Okay, so what's wrong here? String to time. Let's see. Oh, I think I made a mistake here. I think I understand the mistake. So this tells us this tells us when the thing was uploaded, not how many days have passed. So this is my bad. This is how many days, how many seconds since 1970 to the time the item was uploaded. So from 1970 to now, this is the number of seconds that passed, not to now, but to when it was posted. Now we need to subtract this from how many seconds have passed from 1970 to right now. So once we subtract those two, then we get the actual number of seconds that have passed since it was uploaded. May get a little confusing, but that's the concept. So now to get the number of seconds that have passed from 1970 to now, we use the function time, and this number will always be bigger than when the item was posted, so we put it first and then we do a subtraction. So let's subtract time from this. Okay, so current number of seconds to when this was uploaded, and once we do that, then we can grab that. So I think days should come to like 1 day point something, right? So let's give it a shot. Days, guys, come on. Computers, right? So it's 0.7, you see, 0.7, which is correct. It's not yet a full day since we uploaded that. So what I'm going to do instead with days is I want to floor the number of days. So I'm going to put another bracket at the end of it and then put a floor function. What this does is it always rounds, no, actually ceiling. This always rounds upward. So floor and ceiling, if you want to round down or round up, because rounding down here would give me a 0, but rounding up will give me a 1 there. So very good. So ceiling there gives me a 1. So popularity now will be equal to the number of views today, since it hasn't been a day yet. So popularity is 8 because we do have 8 views. We actually have 9 now, so it's going to be 9 this time. Okay, so that's the idea. So by tomorrow, since there'll be 2 days now, its popularity will be whatever the number of views divided by 2, because now there are 2 days. So this can help a new song get to the top and then fade off after it loses its popularity. Okay, so now we can save our popularity. Let me copy that and paste it here. So update podcasts, and then we say set popularity is equal to popularity, like that. where ID is equal to ID, and then here I will give the popularity. I need two variables, popularity and ID. Now I don't have to write it like this. I can just say pop as a shortcut, so I don't have to type the whole thing here. So on this array, I'll put another item, and this one I'm gonna call pop, since that's what I called it in the query, and then put the popularity variable in there like that. All right. So now if I refresh my page, the popularity is updated. On the first day, popularity and this should be equal, but they're not equal right now because I'm updating my views before I deal with popularity, right? And the thing is, once I update the views, this is the old view count. It's not this one I updated, no, it's the old one. So what I need to do is just say popularity is equal to views plus 1, because what we are doing right now is a view as well. So let's add that in. So when I refresh, popularity should be equal to views. But on the second day, popularity will be half of the view count. All right, so that's great. Now we can go home and see this one be popular, right? So if I keep viewing this one, let me refresh the page a gazillion number of times, then it will become more popular than the other one. Let's see, not yet, not yet. Let's keep refreshing, shall we? Let's go back home. And finally, it's more popular than this one. So you see, it adjusts like that. All right, this is all good. Now let's deal with the other pages, which will be easy now. If we go to, let's say, recent, the recent page is literally what we have here. So let's create that page real quick. We're gonna put that on the home page. So let's copy the home page. Will literally be the recent page. So I'm gonna change that to recent and go here, recent. Let's save that as capital R recent.php. Now that's rows, blah blah blah. Okay, great. So all I need for the recent page, the view, the recent view is, let me grab the 404 and views, new, paste, and I just want the header and the footer, and then I'll save this as recent.view.php. Then I'm going to go to the home view and grab just this part here. This is all I need. The other side, you can put, it depends what you want to do. Maybe the other side you can put, instead of popular podcasters, you can say, maybe you can put categories. I don't know. We're not going to put categories in this because the video will be too long for that. I have other tutorials where I put categories and you can copy that. So what? I really don't know here. I'm conflicted on what we can do. Okay, let me just try this part here. Let's select no recent podcasts found. Okay, I'm just gonna grab this part here. Maybe the whole div from here. It ends there, right? Let me grab this guy here. Copy. Let's go to recent and recent view. Paste over here. So let's grab that. Move. Very good. Not popular, but recent. Let's go recent podcast. We don't need the view all because we're already there on the view all page. So that should do the trick. So back, and if I now click on the menu and say recent, this is what we get. Let's see, recent podcasts. This is all good, but too big. So what I'm going to do is put more styling. So I'm going to do style here and say margin. Let's do the margin left and say auto. Same with the margin right, auto. And then let's give it a maximum width it can go. This is maybe 600 pixels. This means it will be smaller and in the center. So let's do that, and there it is. So you have your podcasts there. It's all nice, but 600 is a bit small, so let's put 800 as the maximum width it can go. And there we go. So recent podcasts, great. Then you can check, but we need pagination here. So it will be time to fix the pagination. Let's grab our pagination profile view side. I'm gonna grab this part here and copy, go to recent, and well, the pagination should show whether we have results or not. So I'm gonna put it down here like so. Let me move it in, dial it in. I don't know if we'll be able to use this these styles anyway, but this kind of looks good actually. I think I'm probably missing a few things here. Okay, so let's put pagination here and then copy these styles, right? So what I'm gonna do is pagination is easy to add because we have the pager model. So let me just do this. This one is in the core. This is new pager. So I'm going to call it pager. Now, since we are using pager in the view side, I would rather, actually no need to do that here. So pager is equal to core pager. Now, when you're instantiating pager, you can give it a limit. So I'll put limit over there like so. And then here we have a limit of 10, right? Instead of putting that, let's actually put the word, a variable called limit, and then we'll put an offset as well and do offset like that. So in case you don't know what these mean, limit tells you how many rows to limit in the result. So if I say limit 10, it will only get 10 results. So that's straightforward. But the offset is how many rows to skip before it starts counting to that limit. So this is how we move from page 1 to page 2 by just putting another offset. So if you have 10 results that are the first 10, if you want page 2, you just tell it offset 10, which means it will skip the first 10 and get the next set of 10. So that's all that means. Now we have to create the limit here. So I'll put limit like that. Limit is equal to 10. That way you can change how many you want on that page just by changing that number. And we use that limit there when creating the pager. That way the pager pagination class knows what your limit is. And also now we need to create an offset. Now we can tell the pager to calculate an offset depending on what page we are on. So the pager knows what page we are on. Just as soon as you instantiate it, it knows what page you're on because it checks the URL to see if there's a page number in there. If there's no page number, it just assumes we're on page 1. So pager has an offset. It's already done the calculation, so we just grab it from the pager. So the pager has an offset which we are grabbing and setting it to that offset so we can use it here in our query, right? So that they're on the same page. And that's really it. Now we need to send the pager class to the view. So I'm just going to say data pager like that is equal to the pager class. That way we are sending it to the view side. So when we get to the views, so as you can see here, already the pagination is working, even though we don't have the buttons yet. But if I were to put a question and say page is equal to 2, you will notice that I get no results, right? But page is equal to 1, there we are. Look at that. So the pagination is already working right now. The only thing we need is a way to change the page number without having to type it in the URL by clicking down here. So to do that, we go to the recent, and I want to add my pagination down here. then I will copy the classes that are on top there. But I don't think it's gonna work very well, but let's see. Pager display, that's all you do. You just say display like that, and that's it. It displays the pages. So if I refresh, look at that. Those are our pages over here. Now they are in the wrong place for some reason. They're not part of our div. How come? Okay. So I just need to move this guy down here, like so. So they are part of the family. There we go. So you see, I can go to the first page, go to page 1, go to page 2. If I click next, it actually updates the next set of numbers here, like that. Now you can always set how many numbers you want here. You can change this really by just setting the pager. You can say pager, wait a second, I've forgotten what I used as these values. So you can just go to the core and the models and say pager. Let's see, start, end. Okay, so it's just start and end, right? Okay, so here you can say start is equal to, now these are the numbers before the current number you are on. So let me say start is 4, currently it's 1, and then end as well should be 4. So let's see how that works. Okay, so if I go next, wait, what's going on? This doesn't seem to work as I recall. What is going on? Start and end. Okay, I think maybe I need to work on that, right? Doesn't seem to be functioning well at all. Okay, forget about that. We will fix it in another video. Okay, first. Right. I think it does work. I'm just not using it correctly. Let's see. If I say 1 and then end 4. Right. Let's see. I think I get it now. Wait. No, it limits the numbers there. This is not what I really wanted, but I see how it's working. It's just using that for the loop to start and end. So don't touch that, just leave it be. Okay, so what we need now is to grab the this thing here and this next, and give them this one and this one, give them these styles here. But first what I want to do is change the list. Actually, before I even do that, let me grab we don't actually have a class specifically for the first and last, because we always assumed these will always be the same. So there's a styles, but let me change classes here. I'm gonna duplicate this like this. So we're not supposed to be editing the core functionality of our MVC, but it's lacking, so we're gonna have to do that. So there's page link there. There are two things I want to change. So here, instead of the A class, this is going to be the first class and first style. Okay. So it will still be just like the link itself, I guess. Or is it list item? I don't even know now. Anyway, first class, first styles, and then last and last styles. And then we need one more for the active. So active class, active style, like that. Okay. So the active class is called active for now, and yep. Let's see if that's true at all. Yeah, there it is, active. So instead of echoing this right here, we are going to instead use this active class. So we're going to say this active class, like that. Okay. So we have an active class there. We'll fix this properly. And I want the first. Where is the first? This is the first link right here. So there's an href, there's a styles there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so instead of a styles on this first link, we will put first styles. So wait, there's a link here, there's a style, and the first. Okay, so we're replacing a class. Wait, this is held within this. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna change all of this. So from A here, this is gonna be first, and that one first. Let's say first A class. That's what I'm gonna call it. First A class. First A styles, like that. Okay, because I want this also to be a thing. First LI class, like that. Okay, and then this is the last, the next here. So it's not last, it should be next. I don't know why I called it last there. So it's next LI class and next A class here. Okay, great. Now let's go up here. What I need is, instead of last, this should be next. Next A, this one should be next A, and then next LI. So let me move this. So maybe a bit confusing here, but bear with me. Just copy these as they are so that we have control over what styles we add. That's all I'm trying to do here for the pagination. Okay, so one of them should be first A and first LI. Yeah, great. So now what we're going to do is copy the LI, which is page item from here. We want them to be the default values here. The styles we don't care because we don't have them yet. Those are just empty. And then the A is page link, which is okay. Wait, page link, LI class. The LI is page item. So let me put that there. And then the A is page link. Okay, so that's great. Okay, I think that actually does it. Very good. So with this, we're going to be able to customize this down here. So let's see how we can actually do this. So I'm going to try and replace the first and last styles. I'm going to go to recent down here. And let's do this. Before displaying the pager, we're going to do pager. Let's do first LI class, okay, is equal to, and then let's put our class there. So this is the class for the first. Bam. There we go. Okay. So let's see how that changes things. Look at that. Very cool. So let's do the same for the last one. And let's go last. This is next, actually. Why do I keep calling it last? So next, that's also 52, actually. So very cool. But these ones in between, let's see. not the active one. These ones are class 54. So these ones are in between. These are just normal li classes. So that's 54, like so. Okay. Boom. Look at that. But we want the A tags inside to be white, like so. So in there, we're gonna put the same class. Actually, this class is for the internal. So we'll put the A. Let's see if we put that on both. What happens? So it's doubled. So let's just put it on the A class and not on the list item. Let's see what happens. Okay. Wrong code there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say A style and change something. So instead of putting a class, let's just add a style and say color white, like that. Okay. So let's see. The color did not change. A style, what's going on there? So back to Pager. Let's see. There's an A styles. Okay, so there's an S there missing. Styles. That is why. There we go. Then you can also add text decoration, none text decoration, and put that on none, like this. Looky there. Interesting. But what about the active one here? So let's deal with that. We're going to say active class. Active class. Let's duplicate this. The active class is 53. So let's do that. Let's come here, and it's not working. Oh, looky there. Come on, active class. What's going on? No. Okay, back to Pager. So there's active class, which is active styles. Okay, let's see why it isn't working. There's active class here. In fact, let's just inspect this. Let's see what happens. So there's a class in there. It's class 54 and 53. So there are two classes in there. Interesting. Yeah, this assumes... I think I know what's going on. I think I do. The problem is the order of the classes matters. Which class comes first? So this one is 53. 53 comes first and 54 comes later. So which means 54 overrides whatever is here. Interesting. Now in the Pager, if I change this active active class is here, there's a style for this list item, and I need active styles as well. So there's a class that starts here and also adds there. The active class should be an add-on. Okay, so I'm looking for a way to add to the style. So the styles end here, but I can grab this as well and put it here. So this looks very complex, but don't worry about it. I'll put a semicolon there so that there will be styles here, but I can add more styles there for the active class, for the active styles. So this just asks if this is the correct page number, and then this active class. So instead of active class here is active styles that we're going to echo out. Yeah. Okay, bear with me there. I will update the Pager class to this new one that we've created. It seems the active classes are clashing here. So what I would do instead is just put styles. So I'm going to inspect to see what the color is. That's the RGB for my active one. So what I would do is here, instead of active class, I'll put active styles and then put background color. And paste that one like so, and then say color white. Okay, let's see how that works, and it does work now. That's great. So if I click on 2, wait, these are not links, are they? Oh, they are links. So 3, 4, you can see it's showing me the active one at that moment. Okay, so not the best here, but at least we know this is what we needed here. So we're just replacing those classes with those. Then we can delete these guys. We don't need them anymore because we have replaced them with those. Oh, but wait a second. These are held within this class 51. So I should put this class over here. Yeah, and duplicate the div. Then move this guy over like so. That way if I delete that, it's still held within those walls like that. Okay, so good. So if I go to the next page, page 2, page 1, wait, what's happening? Okay, and then first, okay. Alright, so pagination working. Now we just need to copy this pagination wherever we want it. It's as simple as that now. We can copy this to our profile, for example. Let's go to the profile where we have podcasts, and the pagination here doesn't work. So I'm going to grab this, go to profile view page, and replace this guy here with my own pagination now. So obviously it's going to ask me where's the pager, what is this value pager. If I try to refresh, then there'll be errors here. Attempts to read property from a null, blah blah blah, but not a problem. We can just copy what we did here in recent by copying that. Let me actually put this next to that so it's easier to copy everything together. So I'm gonna grab this, copy, save that. Let's go to profile.php and we will do the pager thing somewhere here. Paste. Then here we can use limit and put the actual limit, offset. Now if you don't put these here, the pagination won't work, so you need that. Alright, so let's refresh and problem solved. Page 2, and there we go. First page, there we go. Alright, so you can restyle those as needed. Now at this moment that we can do all of this is good, because now we have popularity going on, we have recent going on, everything seems to be working. To create the popularity page, the most popular and most listened, these are very easy to do. So let's start with popular here. So I'm going to close all files over there, and I'm going to copy the recent page, copy everything, and just change that to popular. That's all. So popular, and let's save it as popular.php in the controllers. Change the view file as well to popular, and that's it. So the only difference here is that we order by, oh wait, we are already ordering by popularity. So on the recent, we should change this. We shouldn't order by popularity, we should order by ID descending. That's the difference. Okay, so on recent, we order by the ID. That's the latest one. Here we leave it with popularity like that. Everything else stays exactly the same. This is the same as most viewed. So I'm going to copy everything from either recent, and then I will new file, paste. Now I don't know what most viewed the link is. It's most recent. No. This is weird. Most recent. The link should be most viewed, right? Okay, we're gonna change that. Most viewed, like so. So I'm gonna do most capital and then underscore viewed, like that. Now the reason I'm doing the underscore is because we can't use a hyphen as a name of a class, right? So we have to use the underscore, and the file name should match the class name. So most viewed. Now this is going to present a little bit of a problem, but that's fine. So let's do most dash viewed. Now the reason here I'm doing a most dash viewed instead of underscore is because I can save a name, file name as most hyphen viewed, because here I can put any name really. It doesn't have to match this one, right? Because this is just a view file and I can reference any view file I want here. So it's going to be called that. And then down here we'll order by views descending. So my mouse is killing me here. Okay, views, order by views descending. So the most views, that's what will get the highest number. So you can increase the number of podcasts you want to see per page by just changing that. Now this will present a problem. Now let's go to the header. Let's change the most listened is supposed to be most viewed here, like that. Okay, so let's give it a shot and see what happens. If I now refresh the page, click most listened, page not found. Okay, I thought so. Okay, we're gonna fix that in a moment. But so we have recent, popular, and most viewed. Now on all of these pages, the view file will look exactly the same. So I'm gonna grab the recent, copy that, create a view file, paste, and save. This one I'll just save as, there was the recent, then this one will be popular.view.php. So the only thing I'll change here is popular podcasts, like that. Okay, save. And then since I still have it copied, I'll make a new one and save this one. And this one will be most dash viewed. I get confused how to spell viewed. Okay, there we go. Recent, most viewed on the title, podcasts. Simple and straightforward. Okay, so now let's come back here and see which ones of these are actually working. So if I go to recent podcasts. If I go to popular podcasts. Wait, how is the recent and popular exactly the same thing? Is that the most recent? Let's see, third, fifth, right? First, second, this order is okay. So popularity is fine, but recent, it should start with first, second, third, fifth. Okay, so there's no fourth, so that's fine. Yeah, so I guess the order looks exactly the same. It's just swapped on the down here. So it is working, that's fine. But let's go to the viewed, most viewed. This one doesn't work. So this is one thing we need to fix on our MVC. It doesn't recognize those dashes. So what we'll do is, if we go to the main controller, it's here where it tries to find the file where the problem is. So it's looking for, let's see, no, not in the main in the app is where the issue is. So here where it's trying to find a controller is the issue. So it says this controller and select a method, but before that we have this file exists, file name. So the file name here is the issue. So file name is equal to app uc first and then it grabs that item. Now, if there's a dash in there, I should replace it with an underscore, right? So let me copy this and just echo it down here so that we see what's contained in that URL part. So if I refresh, it's most underscore viewed. So definitely it won't find that file. So what I'll do is we'll do a string replace right here. So you see first, but let's do a string underscore replace in there. And what are we finding? We are finding a hyphen, comma. What are we replacing with? An underscore, and then comma in what item, which is this one. So I don't want to replace the actual value in here. I just want to replace the one I'm putting here in the file name. That way I keep the original value, but I have this. So now we have an issue. Controller most viewed not found. Why isn't there a okay, so where is this a problem? Up 35 and 35, index 20. Okay, so right there on 35. Where is 35? It's right there. So this controller we set, okay, so I need to repeat myself here. So I'm gonna grab this and repeat myself here as well. Okay, so boom, now it's working, most viewed like that. So that's another thing we need to permanently update our MVC with. Something I don't know why I forgot that, because I use it in my own projects. Okay, so most viewed is here now, most viewed. This is by view count, which is also the same as popularity right now, but over time these will rearrange accordingly. Okay, so we have all that working. Most viewed, popular. Let's see if the others haven't died. They seem to be fine. Okay, and then you can put your about and contact us stuff there, which is just a static page, just by creating a controller and a view file. Simple and straightforward. So far so good. It seems we have done it. The only thing remaining now is how do we edit our podcasts and delete if we want. So also let me log in as the other user and try to, because here we only have one user doing this, so let me log out, log in as Mary and put in a password. There we go. I want to go to my profile. So here I don't have podcasts at all. So here I should put a button, add new podcast. Yeah, it should be, if I own this profile, I should have to see that. So let me close all of this, close all files. Then I'm gonna go to my profile view, and where we are seeing the most recent podcasts. Where is this? Recent podcasts right there. And on the other side, I'll put a div, and in there I will put a button, and I'm trying to see what class I can use. Maybe, what classes are here anyway? I have no buttons on this thing, right? Unless this first class down here, which is class 52. Okay, so I can say new podcast, and here it's just a button, so class, we'll put class 52 and hope for the best. So back here, okay, there we go, looking not bad. New podcast, so this has to link to something, so I'm just gonna put an a tag. This will link to root and upload. Simple as that. Okay, boom, save that, and then if I click on it, it takes me here. Now the thing is, I should only see this if I own this profile. So let me do PHP if we can do session, right, user, and then get the ID if is equal to the row ID, like that. And let's put a closing PHP tag. I don't need that. Okay, let's see if that worked. If we don't get any errors. Yeah, so that's correct. But we should also see if the user is actually sesh is logged in. That's important. And so if I'm logged in and this is my profile, then show me that. Okay, so we'll check this out when we are logged out to see that there are no errors. So new, and there we go. Now right here I need to be able to edit my old, if I clicked on something I should be able to edit. And here what I would do is I want a slug at the end. So if there's a slug there, then this is an edit or a delete. So we need a way to figure that out. So it should be upload / edit or delete, and then more on the other side. So for example, it can be upload / edit then / my podcast, like so. So this will show that we are editing, and this is the podcast with that slug we are editing. And then if I change that to delete, then we know we are deleting. So the only way to figure that out is to check what's in the URL. So let's go to the upload section and do that kind of work. So it's upload time. Let's go to upload view. There we are. And actually, let me go to the controller. It's better to do that from the controller. Upload. Doom. So in the upload here, we will check over here what the action is right now. So we're going to say action is equal to null. And then we're going to check slug is equal to null. So we're just giving them default values so that they don't cause an error when they don't exist. So if you notice now, and I try to echo, in fact, let me just use show action and then show slug. You will notice that we have those two. The action is edit, the slug is my podcast. But if we don't have those, then they are empty. But at least this is how we can know what we are doing if there's an edit and a podcast. So good. So here all I need to do is put if statements and say if action is equal to edit or action is equal to delete. Now, in both cases, when this is true, we have to read from the slug. So here, we're going to use the slug. And let's instantiate the podcast. Podcast is equal to new model podcast. So the row is important. Row is equal to podcast. Wait a second. Oh yeah, okay, everything is good here. I was wondering about the processing info when we're actually using Ajax, so that's going to be even easier. So podcast, we do a where clause. In fact, not a where clause, we use the first so that we grab just one item. And from there, we're going to get the one slug is equal to the slug. Okay, so we grab row there, and this is good. And then I'm going to send action. So I'm going to say data action is equal to action, and I would duplicate that to slug as well. That way I can use them in the view file. That's why I'm sending them there. So we don't need this anymore. There we go. So if we are editing or deleting, let's read from the data. Make sure we have a row as well. Let's send that as well to the view. Like so. So we'll have a row and we'll have the slug and the action. I don't think we need the slug, but action we do need so that we know what to do in the view file. So let's go to the view file here. Let's upload view. Where is this? Boom. Okay, so here we say new podcast, right? But it's not always new podcast. Sometimes it's edit podcast and so on. So we can put an if statement here. So I'm going to say if action is equal to edit, right? Then we're going to do edit podcast. So I'm going to do this and do else if. Then I'm going to copy that if it's equal to delete, right? And then we'll show something else. Then finally, we'll say else. Okay, and duplicate that and change this to end if. So on the else is where we put this one. So edit podcast and delete podcast. So if we are deleting, we have to ask the question, are you sure you want to delete? And I have that. I want to look for the login page. There's that message part here. This is what I want from there. Copy. Go to the upload. I want to just put that and put a question there. Are you sure you want to delete? Just so the user knows this is serious, right? So you're going to say, are you sure you want to delete this podcast? Question, exclamation point. Okay, so let's test these guys out. So if I now refresh, it says edit podcast. But why are things not working as intended? I think it's the break tag I deleted. My bad. Okay, so edit podcast. If I change that to delete, it says delete and say, are you sure you want to delete this podcast? Maybe a lot too much font size there, but let's adjust. Let's say font size 20 pixels. Let's try that. Or is it already on 20 pixels? Let's try 16. All right. Bam. Okay. Are you sure you want to delete? Works well. Doesn't work. Okay, it's fine. I'm looking at that gap. It's a little too big. Maybe what I can do is just move these guys up here, copy that, and move this guy here so that we remove that when it's not convenient. Yeah, something like this. If I go back to the edit, this is what I see. Are you sure you want to delete? Okay, that is good. Now let's deal with the links so that we come to the right place. Now if I go to my profile, this is the only place I should be able to see my edit and delete. Okay, so I don't have a podcast. Let me actually add one. So I'm going to say Mary's podcast and some kind of description. Let me add an image first, since I already have images. Let me browse to the audios and let me save. Oh no, could not save due to what is going. Okay. But why? All right, so my bad here. Let's see what's going on. Let me do console.log. It says could not save because there was no success over there. Now I have to refresh the page. Crap. Okay. In any way, it's fine. Let's troubleshoot. So browse, audio. Let's go to images. Mary's podcast, some kind of description. Let's see what we get. So save, could not save. Okay, that's fine. Let's find out why. Success false, data type new podcast, errors. Title should only have alphabetical letters and spaces. So why isn't it get? Oh, right. You know, I forgot all about this. Okay. So the errors are here. I just need to check if there are errors. Please fix the errors. I think this should be the please fix the errors. I forgot this part, right? So what I need to do is, let's see here. We have these error thingies which will never work because we never actually okay. This presents a little bit of a problem. So instead, what I will do, instead of fiddling with all that, I'm just gonna say for, let's put a for loop. This one will be obj.errors, and then let's just give an alert for each error, right? That's good enough. If you want, you can have the errors display here. I did that in a previous tutorial, so you can check that out. Mary's podcast, some kind of description. Let me grab the image first. Let me grab the audio file. Okay, so let's save. And it says, please fix the errors. Where are the errors? It should show me the errors, right? For each object. Okay, let's see here. Console. Wait, what has changed? Oh, I closed that. Object.errors I 4I 0 please fix. This should work anyway. Let me post this one, then we can try again. Let me save there. Save. Okay, so I have a podcast there, which is good. But let's do the second thing again. Let's do that thing again one more time. I want to make sure. So that's Mary's second podcast. Some kind of description, images, podcast. Let's add another one here. Okay, so let me save. Please fix the errors, but it doesn't show any errors. I want to go to the console. Okay, so success is false, then errors is here. So this title should only have. So what is the problem? So errors, it should display the errors. What's going on? Okay, I'm just gonna do for key in obj.errors. I think I'll do that instead. Obj errors key. Fingers crossed that this will work instead. Let's put that audio. Okay, let's try again. Please fix the errors. Title should only have alphabetical letters and spaces. Okay, good. That works. And there we go. Okay, so things are working out, and you can see by who, that's different. So now if we go to our homepage, these are popular podcasts, so still those popular ones there. If we want the most recent, we go to recent, and those are the most recent here. And that's great. Now I think we can go to page 2, can we? We will find something? No, not yet. Okay, so things are working as intended. So the only part we need is the edit and delete button over here. So we just need a simple edit and delete. So let's just add those buttons real quick. Then we can go into, let me mute that. We can go into using them. So profile view. And now on the profile view here, with the same if statement we used to view the button, this one here, we're going to use the same if statement to view the edit and delete button. So just after the audio here, I can put a div and then say edit, delete. And here I will put an if statement right there, and then grab the end if and put it here like so. Boom. Okay, then let's put an a tag, href. I'm gonna put a root, sorry, upload / edit / the current row slug, like that. Okay, so that's for the edit, and then close it here. I'm gonna do a tag. Let me duplicate this and change that to the word delete, and just change this part to delete. That's all. And then remove that and that here. Okay, so let's see this. If I now refresh, the text isn't there. Wait a minute. If session is logged in and session user is equal to row ID, why? What is happening? I have that, so I should have the edit and delete. Okay, so let me remove these two just to see if I get it. Okay, so there's something wrong here. What's wrong? Oh, row here is something else. There's another row here. Oh, I see. This row should be different because it's interfering with the user row. So let me change it to something else. Every reference to row here should be changed to something like row, maybe podcast row. Let's say podcast _ row, like this. Let's refresh. Okay. And then this one will remain with user row, so that we are asking the right question. Okay, so now if I click edit, oopsie, the slug here is replaced with this, wait, podcast row slug. This is correct. Upload. What is going on? public. Oh, I see. There's root here. What's going on? Ah, I see. There's no equal sign. Sorry about that. Okay, so if I click edit, you see edit there. And if I click delete, you see delete there. Okay, so let's fix the details now. All right, so the edit and delete button work, but when I click edit, I want it to populate this section here. So let's do that real quick. And I'm gonna go to upload view. And let's see here. So over here in the get image, we can put the row like this, row image, but it may not exist when we are not in the edit mode. So we're going to put 2 question marks to say if it doesn't exist, echo an empty string like that. So let's see what effect that has. And as you can see now, it actually shows us the image. Let's try this one. There we go. And then if we just click new, it doesn't show any of that. So this is great. Let's do exactly the same thing for everything else. So we have an input for, let's see here, the title, right? Title. Let's see here. We have an input there, and I'm gonna put value and put let's see, old value, like so. And then in here, I will select the title, and then put a default value here, title, but then it may not exist, and I will do that as well. So let's see how that works, and it does work as intended. So I'm going to grab that and put it on the description as well, but of course change that to description. And what else? We do the same for the audio file. Here's audio. The input is here. Now, not this input here, but the actual audio source there. So I'm gonna instead of putting value there, I will just put, what do I do? There we go. Okay, so here I will have to put root though. So it's gonna be root. Like that, and then a slash. Okay, so if I refresh, it didn't load anything here. Oh, that's because instead of title, it should be file. All right, so back here again. Okay, now it's loaded. You can see that with the time there. So I should be able to edit stuff here, right? But I should know what mode we are in, because in the edit mode, I shouldn't mind whether there's an image that was added or a file that was added. This shouldn't matter. So we need a way to know the mode. So here we can say let mode is equal to, and in this case, we're going to have to echo it from the PHP side, and that will be the action value there. That will be our mode. Okay, so now when adding these, if image added, we do that, but we have this part, if type of undefined. So this should only work when our mode is not, let's see here, if I cancel this, these are the valid image. Oh, the cancel button doesn't work either. Okay, so this one I should change to type button and then give it a link to my profile. So I'm gonna do root / profile and then / podcasts, like that. Okay, so cancel, give it there, move in. Okay, so let's try that again. Now I'm gonna hit cancel. Oh, cancel, that shouldn't happen at all. This is the upload view, right? Oh, I put this on the wrong button. Sorry about that. I wasn't looking what I was doing. So let me move this back and let me cut the type button to the cancel button there. Okay, so refresh and cancel. We are back here. Now if I click add new and I want to view the page source, that way I can check out the value of my mode. So mode is empty here. Okay, so that's fine. But what if we're on the edit? What value does mode get? So view page source, and let's see here. It gets the edit value, so that's correct. So if mode is empty, so if mode is equal to empty, and this is the only time we should care, when the mode is empty, which means we are in add mode. Okay, so send data, that is fine, that is fine, that is fine. Okay, cool. So we send to the same location. Now the difference here should be, if we're on the edit and delete, we should, wait a minute, this one is new podcast, right? Data type. Okay. Wait a second. So here I want to change the data type. So I'm going to say if mode is equal to edit, then data type should change to edit. So copy that and paste. It should change to edit podcast. Let me duplicate that. And delete will be the same thing, delete podcast. So that's all we need really to change over here. In fact, with these two, I can just put one if statement here and just say if mode is equal to empty. This is the only time we should do any of this. The checking, boom. So I can remove this part here. I'll need the same thing for when adding these two. So I'm going to say if mode again is equal to empty, then let's do that. So I'm going to grab file added. We don't need to check to add these files there at all. So we only add the image or the file if mode is, oh no, that's actually, this is not right actually. Okay, so maybe here I'm just gonna say if mode is not equal to delete, because the delete is the only time we should not add this. So I think that's fine. Also, when we set these, we should set another param, which is the ID. So I'm going to say obj. No, actually we don't need that. So I'm going to undo that for a second. Wait, do we? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay, so I want the ID. So I'm going to go obj.id is equal to now we need the row here, so I'm just going to do this and say PHP row ID. Actually, let's use the slug just for extra security, right? Let's use the slug. Like that. Okay. Now, it's possible these may not exist because maybe the record does not exist, so we will let it echo out two empties if it does. So instead of ID, let's use the slug. To avoid more mistakes. Okay, so that's great. Now we send the data as always. Great. And then we go now to the Ajax side of things. And now one thing I forgot, we need to update the number of podcasts from the users table. So here, if we go to the users table, we have a podcasts number, so that needs to be updated. Also, let's add a few things in here. I want to add 2 more columns to the user. Let's hit go. One of them is views, the other is popularity. So here, let's say these are both integers. Default 0, default 0, save. Okay, so these two will need indices, so I'll put an index there, and I'll put an index on popularity as well. Let's go to browse. Let's see what we've got. We have a date, so that's good. We can now calculate popularity based on views and date. And number of podcasts should be updated. So when we add a new podcast here, we should count how many podcasts a user has and update that number. So let's see, validate, blah, 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 until the insert. Then after that, we say update podcast number here. So what we're going to do is say, we know the user ID, it's right in there. So I'm going to grab that. And what do we do here? We're supposed to count. So let's do query is equal to, we're going to say select all, but let's use the count aggregate there. Count from, now this, I'm going to give it an alias as total so that the column name is named total, because if I don't do that, the column name will be named this, the one that carries the total. So from podcasts, right, where user ID is equal to user ID. So we always only get one row here, so no need to say limit 1. Then here I can do now, I can use the same podcast model to query. So I'm going to run this query here and put that query there. Of course, I will need to specify what user ID is. So I'm going to do this. Podcast user ID. Yes, like that. Okay, so now we need to, I'm going to call this res, for short for result. Okay, so we count that, and then the podcasts will be equal to res. Now res will have a first row as a result, and then in there we're looking for the total column like that, and then I'll save into the database. So we'll do podcast again, and then this time we're going to say update, right? Actually, no, we're updating in the users table. This is where we are updating. So it doesn't really matter actually which model we use, because when we run a query function, we are specifying the table anyway. So select, actually we are updating. We say update, or no, update users, set podcasts is equal to podcasts where the user ID, the ID actually, because this is a users table, is equal to, just call it ID and then limit 1. So that's the query. So in here we need to specify podcasts and ID. So there I'm going to start with ID. ID is the user ID, so there we go, we know it's in there. And then I'm going to put a comma and put podcasts. So that one will be equal to podcasts, the variable. So let me move that there, you see it. Okay, so once we update that, this is the updating of the number of podcasts the user has. So let me test this by adding a new podcast. But before I do this, this doesn't have to work on the edit version of things. So I'm gonna grab, you know what, the edit, I think new podcast, wait a minute. I think the only difference should be on the delete. So I'm gonna copy this. You know, if data type is new podcast or it's edit podcast, we still need to just run this as it is. Okay, great. But then down here for the delete, because the delete will be the most different one, so come down here and put an else statement, else if actually. So I will grab this, come down here. Okay, so this one will be delete, and let's remove this part. All right, so if the podcast says delete, then we are in for something different. Let's see here. What will change? Okay, so here we just want an ID. Let's grab post data ID. Actually, it's the slug. Let's grab the slug. Okay. Once we grab the slug, we also want the user ID. So I'm gonna grab that from there. Let's see here, user ID. Now the reason we want the user ID is because we only want to delete if both of these are correct. If the record has the same slug and the same user ID, we don't want a user deleting somebody else's content. So at this point, we're gonna do podcast. Where do I actually instantiate podcast? I don't know. Do I do it outside? Okay, great. I do it from the outside. So podcast delete. Now we can't run the delete because it just requires an ID, but we need more than that here. So we're gonna run a query instead. And then in the query, of course, we're gonna need a slug pointing to slug, and we're gonna need a user ID also pointing to user ID as the actual values. So let's create the query now. I'm gonna say delete from podcasts where user ID is equal to user ID, and ID, no, slug is equal to slug limit 1. Okay, so once we are done with that, we should notify in case there are errors, we can grab those, but we don't validate here, so that's not a problem. Let's just put success there. Where is success? Or semicolon. Success is true, and that should work. Now let's deal with the edit. So in the edit, we'll delete, let's see, if podcast is equal to, if this is equal to edit podcast, then here we have to delete the old image. So I'm gonna do this, and let's say if it's like that, okay, if it's equal to edit, in fact, even the delete should do this. When we delete, we should run this kind of thing. So if file exists, data row, is there a data row here at all? Where do we grab the row from is the question. So we are not grabbing any rows anywhere here. So what to do here? What to do? I want to grab the old content. So I'm gonna grab this, get an if statement from there, put it here, and then I'm gonna say row is equal to podcast first, and then let's try, let's use that slug and slug. So we need that slug, and then user ID as well. User ID should be equal to the user ID. So this thing we're doing here in the delete, where we grab the slug and stuff, I'll cut this and do it at the top here. So I'm gonna do that here, maybe here, right, like so. Okay, so here this should only work for the edit and the delete. So if data type is delete or edit, then we grab the slug, the user ID, and then we run a row where we grab from the podcasts table and put inside row there. So that's great. Once we do that, Okay, let me move down here. Okay, so here we need row to be something. So we say if row and edit, right? Then we should be able to delete from the row. So I'm gonna grab this here. Let's reduce that to just row, like so. Okay, so if a row exists and we're in edit mode, which is the only time a row would exist, so this is redundant, but let's just leave it there. And then let's remove anything that exists there. So I'm going to copy this, and I want to put that here as well. Let me do this. Right. And let's push that in. So if row and edit, same thing again, we delete the old image. But let's remove let me remove that. Now this one is not image but file, so let me do this. Okay, cool. So this is nice. Also, I'm going to grab this, take it to the delete part here. I'm going to paste like so. If file exists, raw file, right? Let's see here. Now, in case this does not exist for some reason, I'll put empties there like that. And then I'll duplicate this and change that to image, like so. Okay, so after we delete, if there was an image or a file, we delete those as well. I think this solves our problems here. Everything else should remain as it is, and we are good to go. Okay, so let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. So I'm just going to try and save without changing anything. Let me see what happens. So I'm going to save. Okay, so maybe we have an error here. Syntax error. Okay, so that's fine. So I'm going to go back to the upload here and remove this console.log because I want to see what the errors are. So I'll refresh the page and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so parse error. It says unexpected token Ajax line 39. Okay, so let's see. 39 is it here? So this is unexpected. Why is it unexpected? Because there is no semicolon there. Okay, good. Now let's refresh. Let's try again. Save. Okay, more errors. Good. Let's fix them. Fatal error. So syntax error, access violation. You have an error in your SQL. Okay, let's check on. Whenever it says syntax error in your SQL near, wherever it points that where it starts this, that's where the problem is. So let's look on line, this is line what? Where does it go? I'm looking for the Ajax 137. Okay, so let's look 137. Where's 137? Is this one. So we have an error here. Select count as total. Okay, so I have two froms here. I didn't see that. All right. Oh, and also this should only happen in the anyway, if in case this doesn't exist, this should be 0, I guess. This should only happen in the not in the edit, but in the new. So let me come down here. We only update this for a new podcast. That's all. And we update it again when we delete a podcast. So if is equal to new podcast, I don't need that. So if it's a new podcast, then let's do this. And then I'm going to copy that, bring it to the delete podcast, and I will obviously paste it here and do the same as well. So I don't need this if statement. I already know this is a delete section, so no need for this part. We just update the podcast number. That's all. Actually, we do need that if statement for... Do we though? No, I don't think so. Okay, so great. We update those numbers. Now let's try again. I'm gonna refresh and let's hit save again. Okay, looks like we did our job. Yeah. Now we ended up creating new podcasts that we do not need. But let me try and edit this one again. Oh, wait a second. I know what's happening here. We're not supposed to do this if In fact, checking for a unique slug, this is all for, in fact, all of this here, slug, user ID, blah, blah, blah. All these are for when the podcast is new. All of this here. So I'm just going to grab this and move it up to that point. All right. And then move everything over. So if it's a new podcast, we do that. But then if it's an else, which means edit podcast, I can put an actual if statement here if that helps. Let me do this. Else if this is edit, then we're going to do something else. We just edit what we need. So here this will change to update and update post data, and we need an ID though, so I'm going to do raw ID, comma. Let me see here if raw, yeah, okay. Okay, so we update that and that should work. So let's try this again. Let me put a 2 over there and see what happens. It complains, please fix the errors. Should only have. So I think podcast, I should change that actually. Let me go to the model, podcast model. And in here on the rules, it shouldn't be just alpha space. It should be alpha. Wait, where is alpha space here on the. Huh. Okay. Let's try alpha numeric space. This should be one of them, right? Let's go to the model.php and check if one like that exists. So let's see. Alpha numeric symbol, alpha numeric. Right. So we don't have that. So you can just add one more here. Let's get alphanumeric symbol and duplicate that. Instead, we'll have alphanumeric space. So all I need to do is edit the preg match here. I can just remove all the symbols. Actually, symbols here may be required. So let's say alphanumeric symbol space. So in this one, I'll just add a space, that's all, because the symbols are there, the numbers are there, the letters, just the space was missing. So alphanumeric symbol, I think even alphanumeric symbol by default should have a space in there. So instead of creating a new one, I think let me just add a space in the alphanumeric symbol. And we can do alphanumeric symbol here, like so. Okay, that way it allows spaces and numbers and stuff. So let me save. Now it is saved with a 2 there, as you can see, which is nice. So we are able to edit stuff. Let me make it 23, and there it is. So if I come back and edit it again, I remove that. What if I try to change the image? Let's see if... also what I'll do is I'll open this image in a new tab. That way we can see whether the image will be deleted or not. So let's go in here. I'm going to go to podcasts. Just want to change the image to something else like this one. And let's hit save. Okay, so it has worked, as you can see. But let's check out the image and refresh it. You see it's gone now. So it works as intended. So the edit works fine. Now the delete. So let's delete one of these. I'm going to go delete. Are you sure you want to delete this? So it doesn't matter what I do here. If I just say save. Yeah, so we have issues now. Let's go to the console and see what we have. So fatal error. It says you have an error in your SQL. So delete from podcasts where user ID is equal to user ID and slug is equal to slug limit 1. So why? Oh, there's an E missing there, sorry. Okay, so that's one thing there. And on the delete, let's go to the upload view here. I want to change the button here to say let me put an if statement here. If action is equal to delete, then we do something. But then let's do an else, duplicate that and put an end if, like so. So what I want to do is move this in here, tab, copy that and move it in here as well. Okay, so if it's delete, this should say delete instead. Anything else, it should say save. Okay, so if I refresh this now, we'll see the delete. It says delete there. So we still have errors. So let's check what's going on. Undefined key user ID on line 170 in the Ajax file. So let's go Ajax 170. Where is that? So it says it doesn't know what's the variable. User ID. Okay. So in the post data, it doesn't know what user ID is, which is true. This should just be a variable because we have this variable at the top there. So I should remove that like so. It's just the user ID. User ID. Wait a second. Okay. But I guess then it worked, right? If I click delete. What's the other thing that is complaining about? Undefined 170 user ID. It doesn't know what user ID is. Why? When user ID is here, if it's delete podcast or edit podcast, we have user ID here. Anyway, it doesn't matter, so I'm just going to copy this anyway and just create it here because we grab it from the session anyway, so it shouldn't be causing us problems. So delete again. Another error, it says undefined user ID on line 173. Okay, so 173. All right, same issue here. Let's just set that to the actual user ID like that. Okay, and let's try that again. Okay, so no errors anymore. That's great. We've deleted that. If I go now to the overview, you will see it says how many podcasts. It didn't update actually. So that's not cool at all. So update users, set podcasts is equal to podcasts. Select count as total podcasts from where user ID is equal to user ID. And then the user ID is this user ID there. So why did it not save? Query res 0 total as total. This should work. So why isn't it working? Okay, what I'm gonna do is I won't really delete anything. I just want to see the count here. So I'm gonna not run this query and I just want it to update here. Then I want to echo podcasts here just to see what number it will give. So I'm gonna click delete. Click delete. So let's go to the console and see what we've got. So it says 3, right? So that's good, right? So it should have updated 3. So I should see that if I click console and go to my overview. Okay, I'm just not saving that. That's why. Okay, so if I go to users, let me see if it does update the number of podcasts, and it does. Okay, so it's working as intended. So let me undo this. This is all working as intended. What have I done wrong? Let me redo. Okay, there we go. Okay, so everything seems fine. Now let's go back and delete another podcast here. Since we have 3 podcasts, I'll delete this one and delete. Now if I go to the overview, I should see something here. So let me go to my, let me find the text podcasts here. In account settings, right? Let me find another one. Yeah, instead of a 0 here now, we can do row podcasts, because that's a real number now. And there it is. So even when we go to the podcasters, we should see that here, and the pagination as well. So let's go to the view of podcasters. So instead of that, we will be doing row podcasts like that and close it. That way it actually shows how many podcasts a user has. And then our pagination, of course, let's grab profile view. Let's go to where the pagination is and copy it. So there it is. Podcasters. This pagination ends here, so I'm just gonna paste like so. All right, now we need pager, of course. So let's go to podcasts. Wait, any of these, most viewed and stuff, anything that has this section of it, and copy. Oh, my mouse keeps scrolling by itself. Okay, so podcasters, let me put that here. Actually, don't need, do I use this? I do use that. Okay, I do use that. So I need a pager here. Now, in order to match the offset and limit here, you can set it here and say user limit is equal to limit. So we are telling it so that once it's running the where clause, it will use the limit that we are running here. And then the offset, same thing, like that. Okay. So the reason we're able to do this is because inside model, we have these here: limit, offset, the order type, order column, and the errors. So those are taken into account whenever we are running a function and a query here. All right, so if I go to podcasters here, row user, wait. Okay, I think that actually works. So let me now refresh, and there we go. So page 2, no records were found. Wait. Okay. Looks very strange, yeah? It does. Let me just try and say there's a limit of 1. Let's see if it's working, and there it is. So if I go to page 2, I'll see the other user. Page 3, nothing. First page, there we go. So everything is working according to plan. Now, podcasters here, it would be good to order them by popularity, right? So like I mentioned in the model, there is a order column and order type. So order type is descending, that's fine, but the order column should change to something else. So let's do this and say order column. And then we're going to change that to the popularity column. So we are ordering by popularity. There we go. And then we need to be able to edit the popularity whenever somebody views a specific profile, right? So the same way when we view a podcast, a single podcast, we were doing this. So here I'm going to remove that, activate that, so that only the user that does not own the content can update this. But I want to grab all of this here and do the same for the user's profile. So profile here, let me come here. Whenever you're just looking at the profile, not the settings, but the index here, we should be able to do the same thing here. So I'm going to do this, put that if statement over there. So we can say update views and popularity. So I'm going to move that here like so. So we do have a session, so that's catered for, and data row is here, that's true. We're not expecting user ID because these are users, so there's just ID there. So I'm gonna do that, okay. And then we say update users, not podcasts, so users. Set views is equal to view plus 1, where ID is equal to ID. So there we grab the ID, no problem. And then popularity, we count using the date, views, popularity, everything is okay. So we do exactly this as well when viewing podcasts as well. This should be, wait, where did I put this? I should have added if this, so we should only update this if a row is actually found. So say data row and, okay, great. So let me move this down here. Now since in podcasts we already have one thing that checks whether the row exists or not, we can just paste here. So I'm gonna move this in like so. That's pretty much it, right? That will tell us what's going on. So I'm logged in as Mary, so if I view this one, it should work. Variable podcast not found. Okay, so my bad. This one should be user because that's the wait, podcast is there, so what's going on? Anyway, it doesn't matter the model I use here because the query function, we are specifying the table. So what's really wrong? Undefined variable podcast on line 33. So let's see, where is 33? Here, so podcast query. Why is this? Okay, in this location it doesn't work because we didn't instantiate podcast. So we're gonna use user instead, the user model. I think to be safe, let's just use the user model even here when updating this. But it doesn't matter what model you use there because all of them have the query function anyway. All right, so 0 podcasts. Wait, 0. It's only because we haven't uploaded using this user, that's why it still says 0. So if I go to podcasts there we go. So it's updating the number of views, so I can check that by going to users and looking at popularity is being updated and views updated. So everything is working as intended. The only thing is, let me log in as the other user. So I'm gonna log out. Let me log in as the main user. All right, so there we are, and I can go to my profile, and here I want to add a new podcast. So new podcast. So my favorite podcast with guests, some description. Let's browse. So there are images. I don't want to waste time, so I'm gonna select an existing image. Let's go here, browse here. Let's go and find a audio file and let's save. Okay. Seems to be a problem. Warning, undefined variable row. Okay, so this is not a big deal. It's still saved, I'm sure, but let's find that on line 98 inside Ajax. So let's fix that. 98. If row, right. Okay, this is my bad. I'm supposed to say if not empty, because empty checks to see if the variable exists at the same time. So if not empty, yeah, that does it. So if I click save again, I will save this twice. So let me just change my favorite with guests. I'll just put my second like that so that it's a different podcast altogether. I'm gonna put this one instead and then hit save. Okay, look at that. So that one did save, as you can see here, that one there. So if you look here, I have 6 podcasts. So if I go here, there is the list of podcasts on my homepage. If I go to the popular ones, I can see which podcasts are popular. Can also see the most recent and who created them, right? And what else? Podcasters. And now I can see who has more podcasts and who is more popular and stuff. All right, guys. So I think we are ready to call it a day, right? I think everything works as intended. The links here don't work, but that's easy to do. We can go to the home page. Where is that home page? Popular podcasters. Here, instead of 0 podcasts, we will put row podcasts. And then we'll change this to a link with an href and put root. Then here I'm gonna do /profile /podcasts / oh wait. Then let me put the row slug. I'm gonna see if this works, and don't forget to change this to an A tag as well. So I'm gonna copy this and put it here. Change that to an A tag, save. Okay, so let me see if those work. You can see now. Yep, it does work. Very cool. So now, boom. Okay. Very, very nice. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So everything seems to be working as intended. Right. So homepage, podcasters, click on a podcaster, see the details, the user settings. Okay. Click on this one. I don't see settings. That's great. Let's go back here, most popular and most listened, and so on. All right, guys. So I hope you have learned something new in this whole production, and I will see you. Oh yeah, by the way, we didn't create the admin section, so if you want me to create an admin section for this thing, let me know in the comments, then I'll make an extra video for the admin section. But if you've watched my other tutorials, you probably know how to create one. But if you really want that, no problem, let me know and I'll make an extra video for that. Okay, guys, I will see you in another tutorial.